Text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say. Because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, it's 1 o'clock on Sunday, the 16th of November, and this is The Weekend on GB News.
It's looking pretty dicey for Keir Starmer because I think his colleagues are pretty fed up with him. He's doing a terrible job. People like Angela Rayner are sniffing blood in the water, and she is obviously sharpening her knives.
Today marks 500 days since Labour won the general election and Keir Starmer became Prime Minister. The SNP has branded it 500 days of failure. With the budget looming and rumours of a plot to oust Keir Starmer, we're asking, do they have a point? And meanwhile, Donald Trump says he'll speak to the Prime Minister this weekend about his plans to sue the BBC for up to $5 billion for defamation. And now it's emerged the corporation chose a fierce Trump critic to deliver one of its prestigious lectures entitled Monsters. Is there a row about to explode? And new data reveals nearly 46% of all jobs shed in the UK since Labour took office had been among those under 25s. Youth unemployment is now the highest level outside the COVID pandemic since 2015. Is the government failing younger workers? And the latest war on motorists, this is mad, you won't believe this one, people, reveals Britain's road lanes are set to get narrower under new government guidance designed to stop cars overtaking cyclists. Will this worsen congestion and stoke further tension between drivers and cyclists? Yeah, and it's the biggie, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here returns tonight for its 25th series, blimey. Celebs taking part include comedian Ruby Wax, singer Martin Kemp and former lioness Alex Scott. I'll be speaking to former contestant Martin Roberts. I'm Dawn Neeson and this is The Weekend. Happy Happy Sunday. Congratulations, you made it. Thank you so much for your company. And for those of you who watch the little handover that I do with Michael Portillo, who always has a wine tasting, right, and never invites me, I did manage to mug him on the way out for a glass. So it's going to be a nice bubbly show for you all. Hope you've got your feet up and having a nice time as well, because this show is about you. Yes, you there, that one. And what your thoughts are on all the stories we're talking about today, whether it's Trump, who the BBC now seem to be branding a monster, or one of the speakers are. Couldn't make that one up. First rule of holes, stop digging. I'm a celebrity, looking forward to it. And if you drive a car, or even if you ride a bike, you might want to stay tuned for the story we've got for you, because you're not going to believe it. Get involved, gbnews.com/your say. Join in, let's have a chat show. It's a Sunday afternoon. But all of that after the latest news headlines with the wonderful Bethany Elsey.
Dawn, thank you. Good afternoon. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 3 minutes past 1. The Home Secretary is set to unveil sweeping measures to tackle illegal migration, vowing to restore order and end the UK's so-called golden ticket for asylum seekers. People granted asylum will only be allowed to stay in the UK temporarily before being returned to their home country when it's safe. They'll also have to wait 20 years before they can apply to settle permanently. That's quadruple the current limit. And the statutory legal duty to provide housing support and weekly allowances will be revoked. The Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp says the plans, set to be announced in Parliament tomorrow, don't go far enough.
Some of the measures, I say some are gimmicks, which won't work. Some of these are little steps in the right direction. For example, reassessing asylum claims for people who've arrived legally every few years. Fine, that's not a bad idea. We'll support that. But on its own, it's not enough. And we would go much further. We would say for illegal immigrants, they should not be able to claim asylum at all. So there won't even be any need to reassess their asylum claim. They won't be getting it in the first place.
Donald Trump says he'll speak to Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer this weekend about his plans to sue the BBC. The broadcaster has apologised for airing an edited version of a speech he gave on the day of the Capitol Hill riot in a Panorama programme. They called it an error of judgment and refused to pay compensation. But the US president told GB News he feels obligated to take legal action against the BBC to avoid it happening again. He's seeking up to $5 billion in damages. Angela Rayner could be laying the groundwork for a leadership challenge against Sir Keir Starmer. The Telegraph reports the former Deputy Prime Minister and Housing Secretary has been offering cabinet roles to MPs in exchange for support. Rayner stepped down from her position in September after controversy over her tax affairs. Riot police in Mexico City have used tear gas against large crowds protesting against government corruption. Thousands of protesters marched through the capital to the National Palace. That's the home and office of the president. Demonstrators, some wearing masks, pushed and kicked the fences protecting the palace, while others threw stones at police. One of Japan's most active volcanoes has erupted multiple times, sending plumes of smoke and ash nearly 3 miles into the sky and causing dozens of flight cancellations. The volcano, Sakurajima, is on the major western island of Kyushu. It erupted 3 times this morning. Local media report 30 flights in and out of Kagoshima Airport were cancelled because of ashfall. It's the first eruption to reach over 4 kilometres in over a year. And a British woman has died and 28 people injured in Portugal after Storm Claudia brought violent weather to the tourist region in the Algarve. It comes as a major incident has been declared in South Wales due to severe and widespread flooding in Monmouth. Meanwhile, temperatures are dropping this weekend across the UK, with snow potentially on the way. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you very much. You know, you lot are already getting a bit frisky out there, aren't you? One of the debates we're having later on today is about our Labour failing our younger workers. And Aaron has messaged in straight away saying, is the Labour government failing our young working class? No, Dawn, Labour are failing absolutely everything they touch. It's a strong opinion, but that's what this show's about. So keep them coming in at gbnews.com/your say. Now, the UK is facing the biggest asylum shake-up in a generation as the Home Secretary vows to end the country's golden ticket asylum rules. Under Shabana Mahmood's migration crackdown, refugee status will be temporary and people will have to wait 20 years before applying for permanent settlement. Ministers say the overhaul will cut incentives to come to the UK and speed up removals. Sounds marvellous, doesn't it? Will it work? I'm now joined by the chairman of Migration Watch UK, Alp Mehmet. Alp, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, obviously, this is based... Andrew, thank you very much. It's a Sunday. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Now, this is obviously based on the Denmark model. We've been talking about it for at least, when this was first leaked, I think about 2 weeks ago, no, 10 days ago. The big question, it sounds fantastic, cutting down the pull factor, you know, stricter rules, we're not sort of like spending so much money on hotels, etc., etc., etc. Stop them coming, send them back, seems to sum it up. Will it work?
Well, no. Not a hope in hell's chance of anything that Ms. Mahmood has said this morning that has inspired confidence, as far as I'm concerned, that anything remotely sensible or remotely useful is going to happen. They bang on about what the Tories did, and the Tories have a lot to answer for, I have to say. However, this one is straight out of the Boris Johnson playbook.
Right.
You remember that Boris was talking endlessly about the Australian type of points-based system.
Of course.
He kept pointing to something that worked. He kept pointing to tough action taken by the Aussies, and we were going to do the same. In the event, nothing like the Aussies was what turned out, what the Aussies did. So I've absolutely no confidence at all that they are going to do what the Danes are going to have been doing. And let me also add that the Danish way of doing it has sort of worked, but it's not perfect by any means. In this particular case, let's look at the detail of what they've said so far, if I may.
Of course.
They're talking about a consultation. They're talking about legislation being changed, new legislation. I presume that will be in order to not to have to provide accommodation. Because we do at the moment, as our law stands, any destitute migrant has to be provided for. Well, I'd like to see what they're going to come up with there. The other thing is that it's going to take probably 3 years before we know anything that they're putting in place is going to work. It beggars belief, frankly. Shortly after the last election, they announced that they were going to introduce legislation which was going to put an end to the boats coming across the Channel. Well, that legislation, after nearly 18 months, is actually still in Parliament. So how long will it take for the consultation this time? How long will it take for any prospective legislation to go through Parliament? It's just a con. And frankly, I'm very disappointed that Shabana Mahmood, who seems to be more sensible and with it than her predecessor, she's really saying very little, having built up our hopes that something really worthwhile was going to come up.
Well, you've just completely shot me down in flames. You do know that, don't you, Alp, honestly? Alp, that was the big question. It's like, it does sound wonderful, but, I mean, if it does work, how long is it going to take? And the European Convention on Human Rights, we keep coming back to that. The Conservatives, Chris Philp, is saying we need to come out of that. The very first thing we need to do is come out of that for any of this to even begin to work. Do you agree with him on that one?
Well, Chris Philp is saying what I've been saying for some time, actually, but I do agree with Chris Philp. Yes, well done, Chris. However, what we're talking about is pulling out of the ECHR. And that's what Chris Philp is saying. That's what a lot of us have been saying for a long time. That is not what Shabana Mahmood is saying. We're not going to come out of the ECHR. It's as simple as that. And for so long as we remain in it, whatever tweaks they may introduce or come up with, be it Article 8 or 3 of the ECHR, it's so long as we remain signed up to it, I'm afraid that there will be ways of taking it through the courts and ultimately to the European Court of Human Rights. Easy as that.
So the one thing, just out before you go, the one thing I thought did sound interesting, she's going to propose new statutory rules that require judges to prioritise public interest and safety over migrants' claims, which you would have thought they would have done in any case. But we think back to the situation that happened in Epping with the Bell Hotel, whereas that court case, the judges literally said, no, the rights of migrants come before the people living in Epping. Now, you thought that was wrong in the first place, but the fact that she's going to try and change that, is that something you can see happening? No, it's not, is it?
I wouldn't hold my breath, is the way I would put it. Yeah, our judges are independent. And so long as our law remains substantially as it is, they will interpret it independently in the way they think it should be interpreted, rightly or wrongly. We very often disagree with what judgments they've reached, but ultimately they are doing really what is possible. And until that changes, i.e. we pull out of the ECHR, I mean, Lord Sumption, former High Court judge, yeah, he is saying now we've got to pull out, and we can pull out. So I really don't see how the Labour Party, how Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood can continue to resist the obvious.
Well, OK, thank you very much, Alp. I would love to say you have cheered me up on this Sunday afternoon. However, as lovely as you are to talk to, you haven't. Alp Mehmet, who's the chairman of Migration Watch UK, thank you very much for joining me. Let us know what you think about that one, don't you? gbnews.com/your say. Now we're moving on. Just when Sir Keir Starmer thought things couldn't get any worse, Angela Rayner is back, and she's said to be plotting a leadership challenge. Ms Rayner is reported to have already offered cabinet roles, a bit presumptuous, to MPs in exchange for their support. She resigned from the cabinet in September after underpaying stamp duty on a flat that she brought. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp told GB News earlier that Ms Rayner is sniffing blood. Have a listen.
It's looking pretty dicey for Keir Starmer because I think his colleagues are pretty fed up with him. He's doing a terrible job. People like Angela Rayner are sniffing blood in the water, and she is obviously sharpening her knives.
Sniffing blood and sharpening knives. Politics sound much sexier than they actually are, doesn't it? OK, joining me now is Kevin Marr, who is Associate Editor of Labour Uncut. Kevin, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining. Even good friends of mine who are staunch Labour through and through are going, oh, my God, this has been a disaster. Would you agree with them?
Well, Harold Wilson famously said a week is a long time in politics. And he didn't mean that in a complimentary way. No. He meant that in a way that these weeks seem to take a very, very long time when everything is going wrong and going against you. And I suspect Keir Starmer is having a good rest on Sunday after what's been a bit of a stinker of a week for him. And he's probably looking ahead to the next week and thinking what lies ahead. Now, this story that's in the Telegraph today that Angela Rayner is, quote, on manoeuvres, and all these hackneyed phrases, she's getting her ducks in a row for a leadership bid is obviously massively unhelpful for Keir Starmer. It's massively destabilising for the government, and it doesn't do any good for the Labour Party generally. Now, there are a lot of MPs that are sat there starting to look at their majorities, starting to look at the opinion polls, looking at the surge of reform, looking at the Greens as well, and what Jeremy Corbyn may or may not do down the line as well, and thinking, I might lose my seat. Things aren't going great. But you know, this is. I mean, to use yet another hackneyed phrase, this is a parliament of two halves. It was always going to be very, very difficult for Labour taking over from the Conservatives. It was a bad hand. I mean, I think that's pretty much beyond dispute. On any measure you like, we don't build enough houses. We've got too much immigration. The economy's not doing well enough. We've got too many potholes. The NHS has been on its knees, and all the rest of it. And putting this right is going to take some time when you don't have that that booster of a growing economy. So Keir Starmer's got a perfect storm of things that have gone wrong for him, some of which he couldn't do very much about. He couldn't do very much about the Russian situation and what have you. We've got a very febrile international climate as well. But things are not going brilliantly well. But the idea, I think, that you change the captain 15 minutes into the game and expect the result to be any different is absolutely barking mad. And I think any of his pretenders to the throne must understand that they take over Keir Starmer's cards. They're not great cards. And how are they going to play them any differently than he is playing them at the moment? And what we're not hearing from any of the noises off about potential rivals mounting campaigns to take over is what any of these people would do differently, how they would reprioritise what the government is trying to do. And I think that's really the nub of it, because you can, as I say, you can change the captain. It's not going to change the result after 90 minutes. And what MPs need to do is hold the line and learn to stop being big old crybabies and actually go out there and actually defend some of the successes of this government, which are not cutting through because its communications have been absolutely woeful from day one, and the real achievements that it's trying to make in lots and lots of areas, lots and lots of small improvements, are not getting a hearing because they're not being talked about.
OK, Kevin, right, I'm going to gloss over the fact that you, like everybody in Labour, blamed the Tories. I mean, when are you going to stop doing... Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, they didn't have a great time. I'm not defending the Tories. But, I mean, Labour haven't helped themselves. I mean, Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves are now the most unpopular Prime Minister and Chancellor in history. I mean, we've never had them, and they've done that themselves. That's not the Tories doing that. That's them doing it to themselves. And when we're talking about who's going to take over, curiously, they're doing so badly that all of Starmer's potential replacements, Wes Streeting, Shabana Mahmood, Angela Rayner, Ed Miliband, are all in danger of losing their own seats, so they couldn't take over in any case.
This is the paradox of where we are. We're in unprecedented political times. I mean, not only internationally, but domestically as well. We may be having a big realignment in British politics. It may be that, all roads lead to a reform victory in 3 or 4 years' time, or it might not be. We just don't know at this stage, which is what I mean when this really is a classic parliament of two halves. At the moment, the economy is in a pretty bad state. The public are rightly cheesed off about the cost of living and all that goes with it. And people are in a pretty depressed kind of mood. And they're not impressed with any of the politicians, frankly. That may change or it may not change. We simply don't know at this stage. But the idea that you kind of oust Keir Starmer and put Angela Rayner in, or anyone else for that matter, and things miraculously improve for the governing party is absolutely for the birds.
OK.
The only political figure that's got noticeably better approval ratings is, of course, Andy Burnham.
Yes.
The Mayor of Greater
Who's not an
Manchester,
MP, so can't stand in any case.
He's not an MP in any case, but he's the only one with considerably better approval ratings, and there is no neat pathway for him to replace Keir Starmer, even if that was what MPs wanted to happen. So they've got to knuckle down. They've got to say, look, until midway point of 2027, things might not be great politically. You're going to lose seats in the Welsh Assembly, in the Scottish Parliament, and local elections, and all the rest of it. Well, you've got to hold the nerve. There's not going to be a general election in this country until spring 2029, unless Labour MPs make such a hash of it that they start chopping and changing who's the Prime Minister of the country. And the public then, I think, rightly say, if you're going to keep doing that, then we should have a fresh general election. And I think that's
Kevin, I could talk to you all day. There's so many questions. But Kevin, I just want to ask you one final question. You can only give me one-word answer, or 2 words if you want to use both their names. Who would you have leading the party? Kevin Marr. Who would you have
leading the party?
No, well, actually, you couldn't do a worse job, to be fair. Who would you have, though?
Shall I throw my hat in? I mean, Andy Burnham is somebody that I've watched and know for a long time, and is a great guy.
Brilliant. OK, thank you very much for joining us, Kevin, and for having a good sense of humour. Thank you very much. That's Kevin Marr, who is Associate Editor of Labour Uncut. Of course, let me know what you think. In any case, I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GBNews. There's loads more coming up on today's show. The war on motorists worsens as Britain's roads are set to get narrower to keep cyclists safe. Does narrowing roads improve safety, or will it create more tension and more division between those two warring factions? But coming up next, Donald Trump says he'll speak to Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer this weekend about his plans to sue the BBC. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Don't you dare move a muscle. I'll see you soon.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Hello, welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. If you need a time check, it is 25 minutes past 1, but you don't because it's a Sunday, so it doesn't matter, does it? We are now talking about the big story of the week, thanks to our wonderful Beth Turner. Donald Trump's row with the BBC has intensified after the broadcaster hired one of the president's fiercest critics to deliver a flagship lecture. Dutch writer Rutger Bregman reportedly used a talk to compare Trump's America to 1930s fascism. The lectures were literally called our Times of Monsters. Couldn't make this up, could you? It comes as the US president says he will sue the corporation for anywhere between $1 to $5 billion, even after the BBC apologised for editing, accidentally they say, his speech. Joining me now is former BBC presenter Danny Kelly. Danny, always good to have a chat with you. Danny, you know, the first rule of holes, just stop digging, OK? Now, 2 accidental edits, OK, but this latest one is a cracker, isn't it? This is the prestigious lectures that the BBC do every year. They hate someone who hates Donald Trump, hired someone who hates Donald Trump so vehemently that the lectures are literally called Time of Monsters. And they compare, this chap compares Donald Trump to what happened in 1930s Germany under Hitler. What do you make of this one?
I just think it's mental. And during Trump's first tenure, there was a national newspaper that mocked Donald Trump up to be Hitler, making a speech, almost his face contorted with fury against a minority group of people. This has been going on for years now. And the word fascism, Dawn, it's been so devalued and belittled
You know, 10 years ago, if someone was to call you a fascist or a Nazi or something, you'd say, what did you just call me? Nowadays, it's just water off a duck's back. It's meaningless nowadays. But you're right to say that the BBC are just digging holes deeper, and they're digging holes everywhere you see. It shouldn't be allowed.
I was going to say, this lecture is with the worst timing in the world for the BBC. It was recorded last month, but it's due to go out on Radio 4 from November the 25th, just at about the same time that Donald Trump is probably going to end up finally suing them.
Well, that's a really interesting dilemma, you see, isn't it? Because I know that the BBC, what they hate apologising, and they hate changing their schedule, because that's a sign, or pulling things, because that's a sign of admission of guilt. So it'd be really interesting. Knowing the BBC as I know them, it wouldn't surprise me if they actually continued with that. Maybe they'll add a few caveats in at the beginning, but if they start pulling material because of the Trump threat of defamation litigation, I would be surprised at that. I think that they'll heavily balance it, but I would be surprised if they pulled it. Don't forget, Dawn, in 2027, you've got the charter, the renewal, the Royal Charter of the BBC. That's when we, as licence fee payers, will discover if we've got to keep paying £180 every 12 months. This is going to be really interesting how this plays out, Dawn, whether he does indeed do the defamation, whether Keir Starmer is going to be somehow managing to pull a rabbit out of the hat. Maybe Trump will use this to say, look, Keir Starmer, the great relationship, blah, blah, blah. But I understand Trump to be so determined. I think he'll be intransigent. I think he's going to continue with this, Dawn, and see it through to the bitter end with the BBC. And the BBC, they deserve a bloody nose.
Well, as I was going to say, Danny, you worked for the BBC. Are you surprised by the behaviour?
No, I could spend 20 minutes talking to you about the bias, the liberal, progressive, left-wing bias, the anti-Trump bias that I witnessed, or the anti-Boris Johnson bias, the anti-Brexit bias. It's just saturated throughout the BBC, regionally and also nationally. And I've said this loads of times, Dawn. The BBC is staffed by really nice people, but they're progressive liberals, generally speaking, and their worldview or their domestic view, it seeps out on air. You know, I'm banging my head against the wall. I need to keep reminding people that the BBC bias is on display by the stories they won't cover or the stories they push to the front of the queue. I could spend, honestly, half an hour talking to you about it. So it doesn't surprise me one bit. But what will surprise me now will to see how the BBC moves forward. Already, I think the LGBTQ plus department, I didn't even know they had one, Dawn, but that's another scandal that's rearing its ugly head. And already somewhere regionally, I think it was a Northwest Bulletin or a Northeast Bulletin, they've actually started to modify and change their language. So you've got a bloke dressed as a woman, and previously, before this scandal, the BBC would have referred to this bloke as she and a woman and everything. But now what they're doing, they're changing and adapting. I think they're saying Tracy, born a biological man, but identifies now as a woman. Now, you wouldn't have had that 6 weeks ago. The BBC know that they're in trouble, and everyone is looking at them for mistakes. And there'll be other stories dug up from ex-BBC employees ready to sort of shed different lights on the BBC. So they're changing, they're worried.
Yeah, no, they are. And I've noticed that language, as far as women are concerned, they have altered that language now. So it's very interesting to see where we go from here. Danny, thank you so much. Always good to talk to you. That's former BBC presenter Danny Kelly there. OK, now I'm slightly aware that we haven't had any cheerful news for you, so I've got some now. It's time for the Great British Giveaway, and you've got just a couple of weeks left for your chance to enjoy Christmas on us. That's £40,000 in tax-free cash, shopping vouchers and a GB News festive goodie bag. We've got great baubles, by the way. You need to win these baubles, I'm telling you that. Don't want to miss out, and here's all the details you need to win it.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash, so you can have a brilliant new year. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, the decorations, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. And the best news? You'll get it all in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. I'm Dawn Neeson, this is GB News, and now it's time for the latest headlines with Bethany.
Good afternoon. The headlines from the GB Newsroom. The Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood will announce huge changes to tackle illegal immigration in the House of Commons tomorrow, vowing to restore order. Donald Trump says he'll speak to the Prime Minister this weekend about his plans to sue the BBC for up to $5 billion for defamation. It's reported the former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is plotting to challenge Sir Keir Starmer's leadership, offering cabinet roles to MPs in exchange for support. And one of Japan's most active volcanoes has erupted multiple times, sending plumes of smoke and ash nearly 3 miles into the sky, causing dozens of flight cancellations. You're up to date. More for you at 2 o'clock.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Cloudy skies will clear to sunshine through the course of this morning, but it is going to be feeling much colder, with a chance we could also see some wintry showers. The bulk of these showers will be across Scotland, where we do have this cold front skirting its way southwards, and where we'll see the majority of the cloud will be across southern counties, where it could still produce some light outbreaks of drizzle across any hills. But for most, cloud clearing away to leave plenty of sunny spells. Mostly dry, though we can't rule out some showers, mainly around coasts of Scotland, any North Sea eastern coasts too, where they could be a little bit wintry, mainly across hills, and most of the wintry showers will be across Scotland. Nevertheless, though, it is going to be feeling chilly, highs only reaching around 9 to 10 degrees Celsius in parts of the south. Through into this evening, plenty of clear skies, so once again turning very cold across Scotland overnight. We actually got to -7 degrees Celsius last night, so seeing similar temperatures through the course of this evening. Northern Ireland, northwest England too, it will be quite a chilly night with some frost in places, perhaps a bit more cloud around eastern areas, so not turning quite as chilly here. Otherwise, for the bulk of England and Wales, clear skies leading to some very cold conditions, so likely quite a widespread frost across the country and possibly even some icy stretches. Mostly dry, though we still do have these blustery showers skirting any eastern coasts, and they could still be a little bit wintry across hilly ground. But for all, it is going to be a cold start to Monday. Temperatures widely dropping below freezing, many towns and cities across England and Wales in the mid-single figures. So a cold start, yes, but once again on Monday it should be mostly dry. Plenty of clear skies once again, so lots of sunshine around. Still mostly dry, though once again those wintry showers continuing around any eastern coasts, and it is going to be feeling cold, particularly in the brisk northerly winds, highs reaching around 9 degrees Celsius.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Newton. I hope you're having a lovely Sunday afternoon out there, and keep your comments coming in, especially as many of you, for some random reason, lots of you just got back in from shopping and are now putting your shopping away, watching the show, so good. Welcome. Thank you very much for your company. Any case, now we're going to talk about a story that's going to really annoy loads of you, I know. Roads across the country are set to become narrower to stop cars overtaking cyclists as part of a new war on motorists. Official guidance released states the standard lane width of 12 foot, in place for around 150 years or so, is now considered unsafe for cyclists, suggesting road lanes should shrink so cyclists can stay more central. So basically what we're saying is that the roads need to be narrower, so cars, you can see it on your screen now if you're watching on TV, cars aren't going to overtake you because it's too narrow to do so. Motoring campaigners say this will worsen congestion and raise tensions. Well, I mean, yeah, who didn't see that coming? Joining me now is a cycling vigilante, Dave Sherry. Dave, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining me. Now, Dave, I'm a fellow cyclist, right? I don't drive in London because mainly it's absolutely pointless. This is not going to help the situation, though, is it?
Oh, it hasn't improved over the years, has it? So, you know what? I said it over the years. Car drivers are like little babies. They whinge. And when it doesn't go for them, they whinge even more. If they ain't whinging about car tax, road tax, cyclists, number plates, they're whinging about the space of the road. It's about sharing. Sharing is caring.
Yeah, but Dave, I mean, this new ruling, I mean, it's not a ruling that we know is definitely going to happen, but the suggestion is that roads narrow, so cars then can't really overtake safely, so they don't overtake at all, which means basically cars are going to get stuck behind cyclists like you and I, which is not going to help the humour, is it? It's not going to help the division already between those two groups.
Doesn't bother me. If they want to sit behind me, they can admire in my cycling ability. As a London bus driver, I take my time. I get paid either way. It's not a rat race, is it really? You just sit behind, enjoy the ride.
So you think this is a good idea?
Oh, it's amazing. It's going to stop the close passes and it's going to reduce road deaths and collisions. So, can't grumble. I actually think it may do away with the segregated cycle track. So, happy days.
So you think it will do away with the segregated cycle track?
I reckon it will. I've been watching the new cycle schemes, and these segregated cycle tracks look amazing, but they're too dangerous to use. I'd rather take my chances on the road, wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, I use both, to be honest with you, but why do you think the cycle tracks, the cycle lanes are too dangerous?
Because they don't get cleaned, they don't get gritted, and there's always broken glass on there. And also, you notice how you got the manhole covers in them. I take my chances on the road and dodge the potholes and the dodgy car drivers. Yeah,
I mean, that is a fair point about the fact they don't get clean and they're often full of glass and things like this. The problem with this, Dave, though, is the fact that it is, I mean, the motorists, as you say, they can be grumpy. Look, you know, most cyclists also drive cars. But the problem is, it is actually going to be seen as just yet more war on the motorists.
It's not actually a war, is it? Come on. I used to name and shame them, put them on YouTube, see them in court, happy days, you know. If they want to perform for the cyclist, they perform for the camera, they perform for YouTube. And, you know, they can explain themselves away to the judge, and then they get points on their licence and they get it double-barrelled, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're driving a death machine. I drive a London bus, I take responsibility for my actions. I drive correctly, there's no issues. People who have got an issue are the ones who drive a little bit unsafely and think the road belongs to them. It's not, it's about sharing. It's being civil.
But by the sounds of it, the hierarchy does involve cyclists coming first in your world.
Well, they did whinge years ago, and I did have it out with Mr. Dan Wootton. And I said to him, I said, like, look, they're whinging about cyclists now, and they're whinging about them today. And now the shoe's on the other foot. I'm sorry. We are vulnerable. They are not. We take the top end. And the way I see it is, they have a duty of care. Like, I'll tell you something weird what happened to me yesterday. I was nearly run over by a car driver. It's funny. And she nearly ran at me. She accelerated to me, sounded her horn, telling me this, that and the other. I'm like, oh, easy, Tiger. I said, like, you know, you stop and give way to pedestrians. And she was totally oblivious to it. As I'm walking off down the road, she crashes into another car. Karma. All I'm saying is people need to take responsibility on the road. And as a professional driver, I understand that when you get given that driving licence, it's a privilege and not a right, and can be taken away. So with cyclists, they don't have that. They might have a proficiency test. They may have like things like that. But at the end of the day, I've been knocked off by uninsured lorry drivers. And, you know, you really got to understand that things can happen on that road, and it's about taking responsibility. And excuses don't work.
OK, Dave, just in towns and cities, and certainly like London, where we've got and other big cities around the country as well, we've got very narrow roads already. Do you think it would be maybe a good idea if cars were banned completely?
Well, Sadiq gets his way. He's halfway there. The roads are getting emptier, I must admit. It's going to be desolate on London roads. The war on drivers is going on, and it's gaining momentum. I can't believe how much car drivers are getting penalised for coming into London. How dare they use the London roads? You know, it's not about the environment, I don't think. No. And all I'm saying is if you're on four wheels, you're at a disadvantage.
So ban cars?
Get on two, happy days.
Ban cars, Dave, yes or no?
It's coming, isn't it? It is definitely coming. And you know what? They'll all have to get two wheels and join the party, and then they'll be whinging about, oh, you're going slower than me on a push bike. It's coming. I can't believe how much I've seen in the last 5-10 years. And you know what? I feel gutted. I really do. I'm going to be honest with you. I feel sorry for the car drivers. And I've got two cars myself. And you know what? Cards marked.
Dave Sherry, I never thought I'd hear you say you feel sorry for car drivers. Dave, thank you so much for joining us today. That's cycling vigilante Dave Sherry there. Thank you very much. OK, I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GBNews. Let me know what you think about that one, don't you? If you are in search of some holiday sun, whether you're going to hire a bike and cycle when you get there is up to you. Here's a forecast for some of those top European holiday destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Not so much sun across parts of Europe, particularly in the west, spells of rain and some strong winds here. We're also expecting some thunderstorms across parts of the Balkans and Greece. We've still got the remnants of Storm Claudia, bringing spells of rain, strong winds to parts of Portugal, Spain and also northern Morocco. Plenty of showers across central parts of the Mediterranean. These showers turning heavy and thundery across parts of the Balkans and areas of Greece. A mix of sunshine and further showers into next week, and feeling a little bit cooler than of late as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News,
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you so much for your company this Sunday afternoon. Now, let's get to the sport, shall we? I think there's only one thing to talk about first of all, isn't it? It's the boxing. There's a little fight going on last night. Conor Benn beats Chris Eubank. So let's talk to the wonderful Aidan McGee about it, who isn't with me in the studio. Are you, Aidan McGee?
No, I'm not. But it's okay. I'm all right for me. I can still offer the cut glass analysis that you need. Can't I?
Yes.
But no, listen. Let's look at last night's fight because listen, I didn't think it was a classic, but it threw up a story, and the story, of course, was that Conor Benn avenged that defeat against Chris Eubank Jr. from last April. I don't think I've seen a bigger drop-off between one fight to the next that we saw last night with Eubank. Sorry, you were going to say.
No, I was going to say, because the first fight was, it's going to be a bit dull, and that was spectacular. And this one was expected to be spectacular, but was a bit dull. But it depends on who you talk to.
Well, look, no, I don't know. I think that most people would say last night that it didn't really get going. I mean, somebody on the radio this morning said that Eubank was like one of those dolls you get for Christmas, but maybe the batteries you put inside them either don't work or they're underpowered. So I think that's a fairly accurate description, because he came in, as you can see on the pictures there, for the benefit of our radio listeners, you can see that he walked in with 50 cent. I wonder if that just took some of the wind out of his sails, because he looked like more like 50 pence when he got into the ring. Because I have to say, Ben just took him apart. It was the body shots earlier on that seemed to weaken his or to completely nullify his power. And everyone has said, well, Ben actually referenced this afterwards. Everyone said he couldn't box, but he proved everybody wrong last night. I just don't know whether Eubank was comfortable at the weight, because there's a phrase in boxing, isn't there? Dead at the weight. He certainly looked dead at the weight. It didn't look like he was able to shed the 11 pounds or 12 pounds, whatever it was, that he normally fights at, and come down to the 160. Because last night, I mean, you could hear the crowd. I mean, they were booing, they were hissing during the contest, and as well they might, because they paid up to hundreds of pounds for the privilege of being at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last night, and they didn't see the fight they expected to see. As regards Eubank, I think that might be the end of him now. I can't see where he goes from here. There's a possibility of the trilogy, and I think that door will always be open, because last night the purse was £18 million. So Eubank earned £10 million for that performance last night. If it went again, it wouldn't be weighted so much in his favour, the actual breakout, or the breakup of the split of the purse, but he'd still earn a good few £1 million out of it. And I think Conor Benn would be stupid to resist that as well. But in terms of where he goes personally, Ben, well, he proved a few people wrong last night, as we mentioned, but he needs to come down. He's at 160. He looks good at 160, but he needs to come down to 154 pounds, possibly 147. 147 is where there are better opponents for him, and he can make more headway towards winning a world title. But if you lose that much weight, Dawn, this is the controversy about catch weights, as I'll mention in a moment, but when you come down that much, you lose a bit of movement, you lose a bit of swiftness, a bit of dexterity, and you certainly lose a bit of punch resistance and a bit of power, and that's got to be the concern for him. And the issue about catch weights as well is, if we keep going down that route in boxing, Dawn, of saying, right, you're this name, you're that name, if only you could lose a stone and the other guy gains a stone, you could meet about there, then you're risking, you're putting boxers in danger. That's my concern.
And obviously we have to talk about rugby as well, Aidan.
Look, England, I mean, I don't want the boxing to overshadow everything because England were absolutely magnificent yesterday at Twickenham. And I really like what Steve Borthwick's done because I've covered all his matches and I've heard the excuses. He took over at the end of 2022 after a chaotic end of Eddie Jones's reign. He got England to the World Cup finals. They weren't really ready for it. He made the best of what he had. They were a kicking side. They weren't particularly interesting. They had a comfortable route through to the semi-finals, but everyone knew that wasn't really a representation of where they were. But look, this is 10 matches in a row that they've won now. They've beaten some decent sides in that, including France. And we saw yesterday with an excellent midfield with George Ford, Finn Smith, Marcus Smith as well. He wasn't trusted at all under Eddie Jones. They really came to the fore yesterday. And don't forget, they were 12 points down earlier on. This isn't the best All Black side we've ever seen, but they're still very accomplished. And to win the way they did, I think it was 33-19 in the end, I think was absolutely outstanding. So let's just see how they get on from now on in. I think they can go further than this. There's no reason England shouldn't be right at the top of the tree, given the makeup of the league system here. It should produce players, even though in the last couple of years it's been accused of not doing so. But at last, it's been a hard watch covering England in the last 5 years or so, and now they begin to put some consistencies together. Long may it continue from an England fans' point of view.
And talking of England, Aidan, we obviously have to talk about my sport, which is football.
Yes, exactly. I mean, look, we've seen some ridiculous stories in the last week or so because England have qualified, and you know what it's like to fill a newspaper when we don't have much content. I mean, we've had the story, a back page story on one of the tabloids this week about England wearing magic shoes around the training camp at St George's Park. We've had a story yesterday about Thomas Tuchel. Will he sing the anthem or not? Well, we've been down this road before. He feels he's earned the right to do it, so he might sing it at the World Cup next summer. And then this morning we had a story about Harry Kane saying that Thomas Tuchel needs to take a leaf out of NFL's book and have a book on set pieces because set pieces are coming back into fashion in football. Look, the hard work is done. Albania, I expect, will be beaten tonight, albeit away from home. They're a bit more of a rugged side than they used to be, but I expect England to prevail, and it's about keeping up clean sheet again, and then it'll be all eyes over who he takes next summer and how they get on. I think they'll get to the semi-finals.
Brilliant. Aidan, thank you very much. And I'm not at all sad that you can be bothered to come into the studio and talk to me in person.
Come on.
That's fine. You're not cancelled, Aidan. Aidan McGee, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you very much. OK, I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. There's lots more coming up on today's show. Are the Labour Party in chaos as Angela Rayner plots a move against Keir Starmer? But first, it is time for the latest weather forecast. And fingers crossed, we've seen the worst of that storm and there's no more to come. Here's the details for you.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Into tonight, it is going to be turning very cold across the country. We'll likely see a widespread frost, a risk of ice and also some wintry showers. Back to this afternoon, and some wintry showers are on the cards, particularly across Scotland as this cold front sinks south. There will still be some cloud around across southern counties through into this afternoon, but soon being replaced by clear skies. So that means things are going to turn much chillier overnight, quite a widespread frost away from the southeast and a chance we could see some icy stretches. Remaining mostly dry, though once again we can't rule out some quite blustery, possibly wintry showers around any North Sea coasts, but many areas, particularly across the north, will be dropping below freezing. So a very cold start to the new working week. We got down to -7 degrees Celsius last night across Scotland, so it's likely we'll see similar temperatures in these areas tonight. Also across Northern Ireland, northwest England, a very cold and frosty start. Some patchy frost possible across Wales, central and southern England too, but with some slightly stronger winds, more cloud across parts of the southeast, less so in terms of frost. But nevertheless, it is going to be a cold start and quite a cold day through Monday, but once again it should be dry. There'll be plenty of sunshine, all blue skies for many areas. More cloud across parts of Scotland, once again those North Sea coasts where we could catch these wintry showers once again, but the main wintry showers still will be across Scotland. Feeling very cold, particularly in brisk northerly winds, highs reaching around 8 to 9 degrees Celsius. Into the evening, once again, clear skies will lead to another widespread frost and a risk of ice. So it is going to remain very cold, possibly some more clouds starting to creep into the far northwest of Scotland, bringing in further wintry showers. Into next week, a chance we could see further snow. Otherwise, it will still remain very cold.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Oh, there you are. Good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock on Sunday, the 16th of November, and this is the weekend on GB News.
It's looking pretty dicey for Keir Starmer because I think his colleagues are pretty fed up with him. He's doing a terrible job. People like Angela Rayner are sniffing blood in the water, and she is obviously sharpening her knives.
Yeah, happy birthday, Labour. Today marks 500 days since Labour won the general election and Keir Starmer became our Prime Minister. The SNP has branded it 500 days of failure. With the budget looming and rumours of a plot to oust Keir Starmer, we're asking, do the SNP actually have a point? Meanwhile, Donald Trump says he'll speak to the Prime Minister this weekend about his plans to sue the BBC for up to $5 billion for defamation. And now it's emerged, couldn't make it up, the corporation chose a fierce Trump critic to deliver its prestigious annual lecture. Is this row about to explode even more? And new data reveals nearly 46% of all jobs shed in the UK since Labour took office have been among those under 25. Youth unemployment is now the highest level outside the COVID pandemic since 2015. Are the government failing younger workers, or are younger workers not that keen on work? And yeah, it's back. I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here returns tonight for its 25th series. Blimey. Celebs taking part include comedian Ruby Wax, singer Martin Kemp and former lioness Alex Scott. I'll be speaking to a former winner later in the show. I'm Dawn News, and this is Weekend. So thank you so much for your company this Sunday afternoon. As always, I really appreciate it. Lots of you have been getting in touch about the debate we had in the first hour about roads being narrowed to protect cyclists. Lots of you getting in touch, and I promise I will read as many out as I possibly can. And if you weren't watching in the first hour, where the hell were you? What were you doing? I need to know. gbnews.com/ is the way to get involved in the conversation. Any conversation you want. It's a Sunday afternoon. We're all chilled. We're all mates here. So get those messages coming. I'll read as many out as I possibly can. But first, let's get the news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Dawn, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom. The Home Secretary is set to unveil sweeping measures to tackle illegal migration, vowing to restore order and end the UK's so-called golden ticket for asylum seekers. People granted asylum will only be allowed to stay in the UK temporarily before being returned to their home country when it's safe. They'll also have to wait 20 years before they can apply to settle permanently. That's quadruple the current time limit. And the statutory legal duty to provide housing support and weekly allowances will also be revoked. The Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp, though, says the plans don't go far enough.
Some of the measures, I say some are gimmicks, which won't work. Some of these are little steps in the right direction. For example, reassessing asylum claims for people who've arrived legally every few years. Fine, that's not a bad idea. We'll support that. But on its own, it's not enough. And we would go much further. We would say for illegal immigrants, they should not be able to claim asylum at all. So there won't even be any need to reassess their asylum claim. They won't be getting it in the first place.
Donald Trump says he'll speak to Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer today about his plans to sue the BBC for defamation. The broadcaster has apologised for airing an edited version of a speech he gave on the day of the Capitol Hill riot in a Panorama programme. They called it an error of judgment and refused to pay compensation. But the US president told GB News he feels obligated to take legal action against the BBC to avoid it happening again. He's seeking up to $5 billion in damages. Angela Rayner could be laying the groundwork for a leadership challenge against Sir Keir Starmer. The Telegraph reports the former Deputy Prime Minister and Housing Secretary has been offering cabinet roles to MPs in exchange for support. Rayner stepped down from her position in September after controversy over her tax affairs. Emergency services in South Wales have rescued dozens of people trapped in their homes due to severe flooding in the wake of Storm Claudia. A major incident was declared in Monmouth after the River Monnow burst its banks. Water levels have since receded and clean-up operations are underway. 4 severe flood warnings remain in place across Wales. Meanwhile, temperatures are dropping this weekend, with snow potentially on the way for parts of the UK. Riot police in Mexico City have used tear gas against large crowds protesting against government corruption. Thousands of protesters marched through the capital to the National Palace, that's the home and office of the president. Demonstrators, some wearing masks, pushed and kicked the fences protecting the palace, while others threw stones at officers. And one of Japan's most active volcanoes has erupted multiple times, sending plumes of smoke and ash nearly 3 miles into the sky, causing dozens of flight cancellations. The volcano, Sakurijima, is on the western island of Kyushu and erupted 3 times this morning. Local media report 30 flights in and out of Kagoshima Airport were cancelled because of ashfall. It's the first to reach over 4 kilometres in over a year. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Thank you very much, Bethany. Now, as you probably have noticed, Bethany has got the most gorgeous Geordie accent, right? But we were challenging her to try and do her entire bulletin in a London accent, more of a Cockney accent. She wasn't quite brave enough to do it, but maybe next time round, Bethany, you'll give it a go for us. And he goes, welcome back, I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is still GB News. OK, now, just lots of you are getting in touch about the cycling debate we had in the previous hour, and lots of you aren't very happy with the guest we had on, who was talking about narrowing roads, good idea, let's protect more cyclists. And ironically, he was actually a bus driver as well. So let me read some of these out for you. Howard says... I won't use your word, Howard. Who is this person? More collisions with cyclists, and will they put the sign up? Don't drive frustrated. I was a bus driver, and silly things that cyclists do are unbelievable. And if you want to cycle, this is from Paul, you should be insured, same as other drivers. And Paul says, oh, no, sorry. But a lot of you have pointed out, by the way, about what happens in more rural areas if you try and ban cars from roads, and also what happens with emergency vehicles. If you can't overtake cyclists, what happens there? Keep those messages coming in at gbnews.com/yoursay. Now, the UK is facing the biggest asylum shake-up in a generation as the Home Secretary vows to end the country's golden ticket asylum rules. Under Shabana Mahmood's migration crackdown, refugee status will be temporary and people will have to wait 20 years before applying for settlement. Ministers say the overhaul will cut incentives to come to the UK and speed up removals. Defence Affairs, Home Affairs and Defence Editor at the Daily Express, Michael Knowles, joins me now. Michael, this is obviously, as we were discussing earlier on in the programme, is based on the Danish model, which has one of the toughest sets of rules about immigration in all of Europe. The problem is, it sounds great what Shabana Mahmood is saying, but will it work here?
That fundamentally boils down to the simple question of, will the government be able to remove enough people under this scheme and any other scheme to create a deterrent? Since the small boat crisis began in 2018, only 6,000 people have actually been deported after arriving on a small boat. Now, that's according to the latest figures, and we're going to get an update in a couple of weeks, I believe. Now, Labour are reforming Article 8. That's the right to a family life. But as many critics will point out, many illegal migrants use Article 3. Now, that is an absolute protection, so there's less wiggle room for judges to interpret the rulings and to block deportations.
Now, she has said, Shabana Mahmood has said that she is now going to, I don't know how, she hasn't been quite clear how she's going to do it, but proposed new statutory rules require judges to prioritise public interest and safety over migrants' claims. So do you think that is something that can happen? And if it can, how long will it take to put into force?
Well, it will take years to sort out, but the problem is that Article 8 reforms have been tried before. The Tories tried it under Theresa May, and it didn't lead to the impact that the government were hoping. And as I mentioned, illegal migrants and their lawyers will just use Article 3 because that is almost a safer option for them to try and claim persecution in their home countries. If they can claim under that, the rules are actually tighter, and that will require international reforms. Now, we know that there are growing calls across the continent for reform of Article 3, but until those reforms actually come in, it's very difficult to see how they can tighten up the legislation enough, especially domestically, to get to the point where this actually becomes a deterrent.
Michael, just explain to our viewers and listeners what Article 3 actually says.
Article 3 is the protection from persecution. So, for example, if you claim that you are being hunted by the government in your home country, it will basically protect you from being falsely imprisoned, from torture, from being killed. And that could be particularly pertinent for cases around Afghanistan, for example, because we know that the Taliban do wrongly imprison people, and particularly for Afghan women, that could be a huge problem. But we see similar cases in countries like Iran. We see it in countries like Sudan, Eritrea, where there's just complete chaos in their political systems, and opponents do get jailed illegally there.
So how did Denmark get around that problem?
So what Denmark have done is quite interesting. They've restricted the length of time that you're allowed to stay, but they have ironically formed third-party deals. So they had a deal with Rwanda. Now, that is on hold specifically. But a key part of their model is to deport failed asylum seekers to third countries. And where Labour will now face a problem is they've got to ramp up that option. They've cancelled Rwanda because they said it wouldn't work. They branded it a gimmick. Now, if they're going to do that, they've got to have credible deportation options, because the Refugee Council have said this won't deter people from crossing small boats. And the Tories have said the same thing. So both sides are saying that this isn't going to deter small boat crossings.
Go on, carry on.
So it's not going to deter the crossings, which is the whole point of the legislation. And that's going to drive a greater debate around these return hubs that we know that the Prime Minister has been looking at, and indeed more third-party agreements.
It is interesting, though, isn't it, Michael, that while Shabana Mahmood she's announcing this tomorrow, that the toughest crackdown in a generation on migration, she doesn't actually mention the fact that if we are following Denmark's example, which is what she's saying we're going to do, she doesn't mention that third country, the Rwanda idea.
No, I mean, it's a difficult issue for Labour, because they, at the height of the general election, branded it gimmick and said they'd scrap it on day one. And that's exactly what they did. And then the senior Labour government at the time, Keir Starmer, Yvette Cooper, they campaigned on a slogan of smash the gangs. Now, what's interesting, they're shifting away from that. Sources were saying that it doesn't go far enough. Now, that's an interesting omission in itself. So they're trying to now tackle the reason people are coming. So the idea that you can stop the boats, or indeed stop people from claiming when they've come on a student visa or a work visa, it needs a deterrent, and this is where it's all going.
I mean, the other issue I keep coming back to, Michael, with all of this is we've already got 35,000 illegal migrants over here who've failed every single hurdle of appeal. So they are here illegally. There are no more appeals left to them, and they are still here. So how are we all meant to have any faith in what's coming, as Shabana Mahmood is suggesting? We can't get rid of these people.
No, that's it. That is the nub of the problem. I mean, the asylum appeals backlog is growing ever still. It's well over 50,000 now. So this is going to keep going, because there will be appeal after appeal on all of it. We've seen it. They're trying, to their credit, change the modern slavery legislation, because that's a new area that's opened up. So asylum seekers are saying, I can't be deported because I will be a victim of modern slavery when I get home. So that, again, brings it all back to deportations. The government are going to have to come forward with a credible option to ramp up numbers, because we've seen that the France deal isn't having the deterrent effect at all. They're celebrating getting over 100 people out, and I just don't think anyone in a camp in northern France is going to be really put off on those sorts of numbers. It's going to have to go up into the thousands, if not more, for it to become credible. And that's why the Tories are campaigning for 150,000 a year. It's why Nigel Farage has, if he wins the general election, said that he will deport 600,000. That's the sort of number that creates a deterrent. And you see it across across Europe. Germany are restricting asylum rights, and they are reopening deportation routes with Afghanistan. So there are tougher actions being taken across the continent.
It's funny, when we try to do things, we're accused of being racist and all sorts, where other European countries that are part of the EU get away with it. I never quite understand how we actually can't do what countries within the EU still signed up to the European Convention on Human Rights get away with.
No, I mean, nothing sums it up better than their what's going to replace the Dublin Agreement. Poland has just openly refused to join it and have basically said to the EU Commission, fine us, we don't care, we don't want to accept quotas. So there is a growing sense in Europe of countries wanting to control their own borders. I accept in Europe that's a particular difficulty because of the Schengen area, so open borders for layman's terms. But countries want to see tighter controls, and people do. Let's be honest. People want to have faith in their government in stopping tens of thousands of people arriving illegally.
Of course. OK, well, let's not hold our breath on this one then, shall we? Michael Knowles, thank you very much. That's Home Affairs and Defence Editor at the Daily Express. Michael Knowles there for us. No one seems to actually have any faith in what Shabana Mahmood is going to announce tomorrow, that it will actually work. Oh, dear, it sounded so good as well, didn't it? Meanwhile, talking of the Labour Party, Sir Keir Starmer thought things couldn't get any worse. Oh, yes, they can. Angela Rayner is back, and she's said to be plotting a leadership challenge. Rayner is reported to have already offered cabinet roles to MPs in exchange for their support. Slightly presumptuous, one would say. She resigned from the cabinet in September, we can't forget, can we, after underpaying stamp duty on a flat that she had bought. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp told GB News earlier that Ms Rayner was sniffing blood.
It's looking pretty dicey for Keir Starmer because I think his colleagues are pretty fed up with him. He's doing a terrible job. People like Angela Rayner are sniffing blood in the water, and she is obviously sharpening her knives.
There's a lot of blood involved in that, wasn't there? Joining me now is Jonathan Haslam, who was the Downing Street Director of Communications when John Major was Prime Minister. Thank you so much for joining me, Jonathan. I mean, Jonathan, would you like to be in charge of communications for Number 10 at the moment, this week?
No, I'd be plotting to leave to Abu Dhabi, I think, as soon as possible. What a nightmare. And all of their own making. That's the ridiculous thing about it at the moment. I just can't understand how anybody could contemplate launching an attack on a cabinet minister the day before Prime Minister's questions. I mean, just in its own terms, that's ludicrous.
That was West Streeting.
We have a defensive Downing Street feeling under pressure and acting without thinking as directors of communications are supposed to do, which is basically think 3 steps ahead. What is going to happen if, what's going to happen then, and how are we positioned? And you get none of that. You get a panic reaction.
How can it... I mean, Jonathan, I've been a journalist for a very, very long time, since the late 1800s, it feels like sometimes. But it does... I've never known any government descend in such chaos in such a short period of time. And, you know, whenever we talk to anyone from the Labour Party, they always blame the Conservatives, obviously. But this is of their own making, isn't it?
It certainly is, Dawn. And I think when you have a government that's in power but has been out of power for 17 years or so, then you expect the first year to be a bit rocky. It shouldn't be when actually it was very clear that they were going to win the last election. They should have planned it. Clearly, Sue Gray did not do a great job in preparing them for government. But you would have thought by the time of a year plus has gone by, they'd find out where the desks were and which levers to pull. And they're not doing that in most instances. Interestingly, I think probably West Streeting is pulling more of the levers than many people would anticipate. And there are some changes which are good within the health service. But overall, we don't have a direction. We don't have a narrative. The Prime Minister spends far too much time out of the country, and the people to whom he's delegating don't generally seem to be up to scratch. I mean, the quality of people in office, I have to say at the moment, does not seem to be as strong as certainly the Blairite years, and particularly in the years I served, John Major and his cabinet, when you had people of experience, wisdom, you either liked or you didn't like their political point of view, but they were quality people who knew how to get things done. So that's not where we are at the moment, Dawn. That's a great shame. And the idea that Angela Rayner is plotting a leadership bid, and to be fair to her, because, you know, we're both involved in journalism and news, she has denied it all, of course.
Yes, she has.
But I'm sure if you asked her if the ball came loose at the back of the ladies' rugby team, would she be available to pick it up? She would say, well, I have to. But it would be a bad thing for the country. She's got a great personal story in many respects. As a woman, she's suffered a lot and she's overcome a great deal. She doesn't know how to add up or to always take advice about housing matters, which is a shame for the housing secretary. But nonetheless, I don't think she's the right person to lead the country. What we do need is some competence and stability to get over really difficult times. And Labour's got very little time to prove it. May is going to be an absolute watershed if we don't see things from there. And in less than a couple of weeks' time, that budget, Dawn, is going to be a humdinger. What a mess that the Treasury and Rachel Reeves have made of trying to prepare the ground for where we're going to end up on the 26th of November.
We are so close to that, Jonathan. I mean, we're literally, 10 days away, and it feels like absolute panic stations, which for all the ordinary working people and the money markets, it's just a terrible, terrible mess.
It is, and there's a huge amount that they need to learn. The amount of speculation that's gone on is shocking. And you know that people will have made potentially life-changing decisions. People who've put into a pension for decades may have seen the idea that the lump sum could come below 25%, and they may have planned the twilight years of their life around that and understanding it. And some of them will have taken that money out, and they'll find if it doesn't come to pass, HMRC will say, well, I'm very sorry, you can't put it back in. There is tax to be paid. And this is an appalling situation. Things need to happen. The Office of Budget Responsibility is not government. It needs to report once a year, not twice a year. And we need to have some sensible rules about spending. And we have to say that Labour has shown it time and time again, and I despair of the idea that we're going back to the Callaghan era of just before Margaret Thatcher. We seem to have come full circle. We know they're tax and spend. They're congenitally incapable of cutting back spending. And that is a big problem because you cannot tax forever. We all want to pay our proper taxes, but where we are at the moment is seeing possibly the biggest tax-raising grab through stealth taxes. That is not increasing the allowances that people get related up to inflation. And that is poor management. I know they didn't have a great inheritance. John Major gave Tony Blair a great inheritance. They haven't had that, but nonetheless, they're not managing it well, and that's a great shame for the country.
OK, Jonathan, we have to leave it now. I could talk to you for hours. Thank you very much for joining us. That's Jonathan Haslam, who was the Downing Street Director of Communications when John Major was Prime Minister. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. There's lots more coming up on today's show. But next, Donald Trump says he'll speak to Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer this weekend about his plan to sue the BBC after the broadcaster hired one of the president's fiercest critics to deliver their flagship annual lecture. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News. I'm Dawn Neeson. I'll see you very soon.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health, Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you so much for your company this Sunday afternoon. Now, let's talk about Donald Trump, shall we? Because that row with the BBC intensifies after a lecture commissioned by the broadcaster compared Trump's presidency to 1930s fascism. Dutch writer Rutger Bregman's lectures were recorded last month and are now set to go out on Radio 4 in 2 weeks' time. Timing is everything here. It comes as the US president says he will sue the corporation for up to $5 billion, even after the BBC apologised for editing his speech. Joining me now is Reform UK Head of Kent County Council, Lyndon Kemkaraman. Sorry if I pronounced that wrongly. I hope I haven't. Lyndon, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining you. Lyndon, this is just, you know, the first rule of holes for anybody, especially the BBC, is when you're in one, you stop digging. This lecture has been recorded, pre-recorded, where literally, it is literally headlined, "We live in a time of monsters," and talks about Donald Trump. That's going out in 2 weeks' time. What do you make of this?
Well, Dawn, the BBC is in big trouble, and it gives me no pleasure to say this because I spent 20 years of my life working at the BBC in the heart of the main newsroom covering national and international news. And when I joined, it was the late 90s, and the BBC was a very, very different organisation then. It's never been perfect. Nobody ever said it was. But what it was when I joined was, it was somewhere I was very, very proud to say that I worked for the BBC because in those days it stood for truthful, accurate broadcasting. You know, the editors back in my day they would have rather died than let something go to air that wasn't absolutely spot on and truthful. However, I was a staff member there for 10 years, and then I went back as a freelance. And I think it was around the time of 2013, 2014, running up to the big Brexit referendum, that I noticed a big change in how the corporation was being run. A lot of new people had come in, and I think because I was then freelance, I was going away doing other work and then coming back, so I was able to see the changes happening, whereas I think when you're there every single day you probably don't see them happening. But it suddenly struck me that people were afraid to challenge the sort of groupthink that was creeping into the newsroom. Job cuts were becoming very widespread. And I think good people were genuinely fearful of losing their jobs if they spoke out and challenged the editorial line, which was becoming more and more dictatorial. So you're right. The BBC is in a massive hole. I've been horrified with the response in the last few days. It doesn't seem to want to accept responsibility, that it has committed the cardinal sin of deliberately editing something to make it appear something that it wasn't, and it wants to blame the far right, as it seems to want to blame the far right for everything nowadays. I don't think the far right were in that edit suite when President Trump's speech was spliced together to make it appear as if he'd incited violence, when of course he hadn't.
And Lyndon, that happened twice. That happened on both Panorama and Newsnight, several years apart. So, I mean, do you have any truck with their argument that it was accidental?
No. None whatsoever. Now, I know the editorial process inside the BBC inside out because I was subject to it for all those years. That edit of that Panorama and the Newsnight would have gone through several different layers of editors, producers, junior producers, senior producers, programme producers, the programme editor, the overall editor. You know, that things like that are not let out by accident. This smacks of a massive, massive cover-up. I think it's disgraceful the way the BBC is trying to blame everybody apart from itself. I think that is what is annoying people. It's certainly annoying me. If you've made a mistake in life, you say, okay, hands up, I messed up, I'm really sorry, it won't happen again. I will, root out the person that did it, and we will fix this. The BBC is not doing any of that. It's just seeking to blame anybody apart from itself, and that's the saddest thing.
Yeah. And Lyndon, just quickly and finally, in the interview with our very own Bev Turner, Donald Trump did say that, he intends to sue, that much we know. But he also mentioned Nigel Farage, and saying, it'd be interesting if this case goes to court, what other evidence will be emerged about maybe the BBC editing other interviews and putting clips together. And he mentioned Nigel. Do you think that is likely have happened to reform speeches?
I don't know. I can't comment on that because I've not had any prior of sight of anything like that. What I can comment on is this isn't the first time that the BBC Panorama programme has been in very hot water. We mustn't forget about the Princess Diana interview.
Of course, Martin Bashir.
In 1995, Martin Bashir. It's now been proven that he lied and lied and lied again to secure that interview. That was known about by programme editors, but the BBC kept that covered up for many years. And they rehired Martin Bashir just a few years ago to come back into BBC News, and they promoted him to be a religious affairs editor. I mean, what was that all about? Everybody knew that he'd lied to get that. It was common knowledge in the newsroom that something very nasty had gone on in securing that interview. The BBC is getting a bit of a reputation for not liking it when they get found out.
Yeah, and it's not a pleasant place to be, is it? We're the one we trusted them. Anyway, Lyndon, thank you so much for joining us today. That is Reform UK Head of Kent County Council, Lyndon Kemkaran. Thank you very much for joining us. Let me know what you think about that one. Everybody, gbnews.com/your say. Now it's time for the Great British Giveaway. Come on, it's some nice stuff for us all, and it's just 2 weeks to go to grab your chance to enjoy Christmas on us. That's £40,000 in tax-free cash, shopping vouchers, and that GB News festive goodie bag even. Here's how you win it.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your Christmas this year paid for by us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash, so you can have a brilliant new year. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, the decorations, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. And the best news? You'll get it all in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. There's loads more coming up on today's show. But first, it's the news headlines with Bethany.
Good afternoon. The headlines from the GB newsroom. The Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood will announce huge changes to tackle illegal immigration in the House of Commons tomorrow, vowing to restore order. Donald Trump says he'll speak to the Prime Minister this weekend about his plans to sue the BBC for up to $5 billion for defamation. 5 people in their early 20s have been killed in what police are describing as a shocking and devastating car crash in County Louth. The UK has seen its coldest night since March, with -7 degrees recorded in the Scottish Highlands, and snow could hit parts of the UK just days after Storm Claudia caused severe flooding. And one of Japan's most active volcanoes has erupted multiple times overnight, sending plumes of smoke and ash nearly 3 miles into the sky, causing dozens of flight cancellations. You're up to date. More for you at 3 o'clock.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Cloudy skies will clear to sunshine through the course of this morning, but it is going to be feeling much colder, with a chance we could also see some wintry showers. The bulk of these showers will be across Scotland, where we do have this cold front skirting its way southwards, and where we'll see the majority of the cloud will be across southern counties, where it could still produce some light outbreaks of drizzle across any hills, but for most, cloud clearing away to leave plenty of sunny spells. Mostly dry, though we can't rule out some showers, mainly around coasts of Scotland, any North Sea eastern coasts too, where they could be a little bit wintry, mainly across hills, and most of the wintry showers will be across Scotland. Nevertheless, though, it is going to be feeling chilly, highs only reaching around 9 to 10 degrees Celsius in parts of the south. Through into this evening, plenty of clear skies, so once again turning very cold across Scotland overnight. We actually got to -7 degrees Celsius last night, so we're seeing similar temperatures through the course of this evening. Northern Ireland, northwest England too, it will be quite a chilly night with some frost in places, perhaps a bit more cloud around eastern areas, so not turning quite as chilly here. Otherwise, for the bulk of England and Wales, clear skies leading to some very cold conditions, so likely quite a widespread frost across the country and possibly even some icy stretches. Mostly dry, though we still do have these blustery showers skirting any eastern coasts, and they could still be a little bit wintry across hilly ground. But for all, it is going to be a cold start to Monday. Temperatures widely dropping below freezing, many towns and cities across England and Wales in the mid-single figures. So a cold start, yes, but once again on Monday it should be mostly dry. Plenty of clear skies once again, so lots of sunshine around. Still mostly dry, though once again those wintry showers continuing around any eastern coasts, and it is going to be feeling cold, particularly in the brisk northerly winds, highs reaching around 9 degrees Celsius.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you so much for your company. Long-term youth unemployment has reached a 10-year high, with under-25s accounting for half of all jobs lost since Labour took office. So Keir Starmer is now being warned that Britain's young people risk becoming a lost generation, as many say finding work has never been tougher. So we're asking, is the government letting down young workers, the people they really should be looking after? Joining me now is political commentator Chloe Dobbs. Chloe, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me. I mean, this is a shocking report today. As many as 46% of the 170,000 jobs lost from company payroll since June last year are from those under the age of 25. That's 150 jobs lost per day. What on earth is going wrong?
Well, this really is Rachel Reeves's creation. It is such a tragedy. But what happened is that although under 25s only make up 10% of the workforce, the jobs that under 25s work are often those minimum wage jobs. It's the job in the pub, the job in the cafe, the job in the supermarket. And those are the jobs that have been hit the hardest, because if you talk to anybody who owns a pub, I mean, Adam Brooks is on this channel regularly. Our regular viewers will know him. He owns a pub, and he says to me, look, I've got to find like tens and tens and tens of thousands of extra a year. We haven't got more cash coming in to pay for it. So not only do pubs and supermarkets have to fire people now, they're also, those who have still got a job, they're having to massively cut back their hours just to make ends meet. These businesses, they're struggling enough as it is. COVID, of course, made things very difficult for businesses, but now those that are still here, they've got huge energy costs, and then they had the huge national insurance hike and the huge minimum wage hike at the same time. And Labour made it out as though they are helping working people with this minimum wage hike. And although those who have kept their minimum wage jobs maybe have a bit more cash in their pockets, so many others have been fired as a consequence, which is a real tragedy. And look, when I finished school at 18, I left the house straight away. I got myself a job in a pub at 18, moved to London, learned to make my own ends meet, learned so many life lessons, learned how to manage my own money, learned how to communicate with customers and everything by going and working one of those minimum wage jobs. If that isn't available to young people anymore, you're going to see so many more of them fall into this lifelong benefits trap. I mean, that's another part of this story, right, is that so many young people are being signed off work. We've just had over the past year another 1 million people on universal credit who do not have the requirement to look for work. I'm sure many of those are young people as well, suffering from anxiety and these minor mental health issues. And for those people who have minor mental health issues, for most cases, the best thing for them is to be given a sense of purpose with a job. It doesn't matter if that is being on the checkouts in Tesco. That will give you've got to get up in the morning, you're going to see people at work every day, you're going to have a routine, you're going to have some sense of purpose. That can do so much for your mental health. So this is a real tragedy, not just for the economy, but for the well-being of our young generation.
This is the thing. I mean, it comes on Thursday. We're expecting an update on the number of young people who are not in education, employment or training, NEETs as we call them, and we're expecting it to climb above 1 million for the first time in a decade. I mean, this comes from a government that, in their party conference earlier, said that they were going to be aiming to support the youth. They were going to abolish long-term youth unemployment. I mean, that was only a few months ago, Chloe.
Well, I remember last year they kept using this slogan, "Get Britain Working." When Labour came in, they said it's all going to be about growth. Growth is going to be our top priority. We're going to get Britain working. But we haven't seen any of that. We've seen the opposite of that. We've seen the shutdown of the economy. Of course, we had 40 billion in tax hikes in the last budget. And of course, we know that is what is coming in the budget that we're about to see in the next week or so, which is going to shrink the economy more and more. Also, Labour, with their socialist economics, have pushed all of the wealth creators out of the country who are all going to places like Dubai. And these socialists think, oh, great, those evil billionaires are leaving. But guess what? Those are the people that create jobs in those countries. Those are the people who create a lot of these, say, minimum wage jobs that help young people get on their feet and get their first foot in the workplace. It's just, I've seen with Labour, we've seen ideology over pragmatism, and consequently the economy is paying for it. And also the cost of living is a nightmare for young people at the moment. And when you're young, one of your biggest spending areas is food. And food inflation is absolutely horrific at the moment. And before they were about to kind of hint to us that taxes were going to go up in this budget, in order to lessen the blow, Keir Starmer came out and said this budget is going to be all about living standards. And straight after that, a load of supermarket giants all came out and said, no, it's not, because we keep having to put our prices up because of Rachel Reeves's policies.
Chloe, just finally, you are a young woman. How do you feel about your future?
Look, as I said, Dawn, I left home at 18 and I put hard work in, and I do have hope for my future in that I believe I will be employed. But in terms of my prospects of, for example, owning a home, where that's big enough for a family. I have a lot of doubts because you seem to have to be a millionaire to own a home that size these days. I think that's something that a lot of young people struggle with, is looking forward to whether they'll be able to have a family or not. But I do despair for a lot of my peers. Like, I came from an area in Cornwall where there are a lot of people on benefits, there are a lot of people in social housing, and a lot of people really struggle to get out of that loop. And if the jobs are not available for them because of Rachel Reeves's policies, that's a shame, because if they don't get in that habit when they're 18, they may end up with a lifetime on benefits.
Yeah, awful thought. Thank you very much. That's our political commentator, Chloe Dobbs there. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. There's lots more coming up on today's show. I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here returns for its 25th series tonight. But what does it take to survive in the camp? I'll be joined by former contestant Nicola McLean next. But if you are in search of some holiday sun, Australia's pretty good, but this one's more to do with Europe. Here's a forecast for those top holiday destinations for you.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Not so much sun across parts of Europe, particularly in the west, spells of rain and some strong winds here. We're also expecting some thunderstorms across parts of the Balkans and Greece. We've still got the remnants of Storm Claudia, bringing spells of rain, strong winds to parts of Portugal, Spain and also northern Morocco. Plenty of showers across central parts of the Mediterranean. These showers turning heavy and thundery across parts of the Balkans and areas of Greece. A mix of sunshine and further showers into next week, and feeling a little bit cooler than of late as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dawdley, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Just a little bit of breaking news for you. Hundreds are protesting against migrant plans as the Home Secretary is warning illegal migration is tearing the country apart. This is protests at Crowborough Army Camp in East Sussex. Second consecutive weekend of that demonstration, and hundreds are there. We covered it last week on this show, and it does seem that that is gathering momentum now. One of the two sites earmarked by the Home Office to install housing for small boat migrants, and that is due to happen later this month. Okay, so that protest is happening now. We'll bring you any more on that story as and when we get it. Now, OK, on a lighter note, we finish on a light note. It's a Sunday afternoon, come on. I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here returns for its 25th series tonight. Gosh, Ruby Wax, Martin Kemp and Kelly Brook are among those entering the jungle. But what does it take to survive in camp? I must admit, I've always quite fancied it, but not being filmed. So let's talk now to someone who did survive it and looked beautiful while she was doing it, to boot, a glamour model and TV personality, Nicola McLoone, who was in I'm a Celebrity in 2008, I believe. Nicola, good to see you. Nicola, it's starting tonight. I can't believe it's been going for 23 years now. What are your memories of it? What difference did it make to you? What's it like in there?
Oh, I just loved it, Dawn. My memories are good, apart from being in there with David Van Day, who I couldn't stand. But it made for good. It made for good TV. But I just loved it. I loved sleeping outdoors. I loved the sound of the jungle when I was going to sleep. I didn't love the trials, but I loved eating all the different foods, and I just really enjoyed it. And it made a massive difference to my life. I mean, I was a successful glamour model and page three girl, which I always speak really highly and fondly of. I love doing that as well. But that, you know, we're all getting up. We're getting older, and page three and things was going to come to an end. So this just helped me move into a more mainstream platform. So I was just so lucky.
And were you approached about going in, and how did they sell it to you? Were you worried? Were you concerned? Because people have gone in there and it hasn't always gone successfully for them, has it?
I suppose I didn't have anything to lose, you know. I think I was, how old was I? Maybe about 25, 26, you know, and no one knew my personality. They'd only ever seen me sort of, you know, in print. So I didn't have anything to lose. But the funniest thing was, I'm not sure if I've ever told this story, when it first come on and there was a glam model on it who you will know, because you being ex-editor of the Daily Star, used to print it all the time. Nell McAndrew was in the first ever one. And I remember saying to my mum, I was 19 at the time, and I said to my mum, I'll be on that show one day. And she was like, how? And I was like, just wait and see. I kind of always knew I'd do it for some reason. I just was the biggest fan. And yeah, they approached me. They approached me the year that Mylene did it. And I went for about 4 or 5 interviews and I didn't get it. And then the next year they didn't ask me to go back. And then the year after they asked me for another interview and I got the show. So it was great.
And you could be watching it tonight, obviously.
Oh, I've got my bottle of fizz in the fridge already, and I can't wait.
Brilliant. Nicola, thank you so much. Always a joy to talk to you. That's TV personality Nicola McLoone, who was in I'm a Celebrity in 2008. OK, I'm Dawn Neeson. This has been GB News. Thank you so much at home for watching, but that's it from me for now. But don't go anywhere, because Nana is up next, and she's always got a brilliant show. Nana, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dawn. And hello, good afternoon. How are you? Crikey, we've got a busy one today. We are going to be talking about Shabana Mahmood and, of course, her wonderful plan to copy the Danish immigration system. But it seems that it's not the entire thing she's copying. It sounds like little bits. But are these just smoke and mirrors? Because, frankly, without removing ourselves from the ECHR and Article 3 and Article 8, those things can still be used. So what do you think? It's Shabana Mahmood? Is it all smoke and mirrors? Plus, of course, the BBC. They're in a little bit of hot water, of course, but unfortunately for them, it's not getting any better. Donald Trump has not backed down, and fantastic interview by Bev Turner towards him. He showed a kind of softer side, didn't he? But the question is, what will happen? Sir Keir Starmer is going to put his foot in and put his hand into the ring. All of that is coming up, but first, let's get an update with your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Into tonight, it is going to be turning very cold across the country. We'll likely see a widespread